You might never have thought about how insects can actually help us in life. Well, now you're about to know. Insects can be everywhere we go, whether it's on a plant, tree, or on the ground. Insects are very important to us because they help us to create food. Let's take a look at how that happens.
In order for plants to produce seeds, insects are needed to help pollinate. In most cases, pollen is collected by sticky hairs on an insect's body and transferred to a new flower. Plants have many ways to get insects to collect pollen for them. A specific example of this is the goldenrod flower. This plant is shaped like a tube. Smaller insects may walk up inside the petals. The plant holds a variety of small buds that the insect must walk across to get to the nectar, thus covering his feet and body in the pollen. Here you can see the daisy. This plant is shaped like an umbrella. When the bee lands on the flower, the insect's feet are coated in pollen. We wouldn't have any flowers or fruits without the process of pollination. The beauty of pollination is that it is a case of mutualism. The insect needs the nectar from the flower, and the flower needs pollen. Both of these needs are met when the insect is crawling along the flower in search of nectar.
Now here are some facts about a few common insects.
All insects have their own unique life cycles, but they are all either incomplete with 3 stages or complete with 4. The field cricket has an incomplete metamorphosis with egg, nymph, and adult stages. The nymph is usually similar to the adult, but smaller and with a few key differences. It's amazing to think that in the span of 2 to 3 months, a nymph will molt up to 10 times. Then it will become an adult. Another kind of life cycle is complete, with the 4 stages egg, larva, pupa, and adult. The mud dauber wasp has this life cycle. It goes from worm-like in the larval stage to a winged adult after going through the pupal stage. The wasp stays in its nest until it emerges from its pupa. The pupal stage is the main difference between the incomplete and complete life cycles. Next, we will look at a physical adaptation that all insects have in common.
Did you know that insects have 3 main parts in their legs? All insects have tibias, femurs, and tarsus as feet. Legs are used for different things like catching prey, clinging to trees, and tasting food. Mantids have hooks on their tibias and tarsus so they can cling to plants and grasp. Insects can share the same ecosystem because each kind of leg has different physical adaptations. Yes, some insects like honeybees actually have taste buds on their feet. The cricket has enlarged femurs on its hind legs for powerful and rapid jumping to escape predators. You might be asking yourselves, what plants do insects live on? Well, let's find out.
Every animal gets its energy from the sun, whether it be from directly eating a plant or eating an organism that has already eaten a plant. Insects are very important in the passing of energy to animals from the sun. This is why insects are so necessary in a healthy ecosystem. Many creatures depend on insects for food, so removing them from that ecosystem would be terrible for the entire ecosystem. Also, insects have evolved to eat only the chemicals in native plants.
Native plants have lived in an area for long enough to be balanced with the other species in the ecosystem. However, invasive plants haven't had the time to find balance with the ecosystem, so often they have a negative impact on the ecology of an area. 95% of the natural land in this country is filled with cities, farms, and suburbs. If we use native plants to fill our backyards, some of this land will be returned to the insects and the species that eat them. We can bring back some of the biodiversity that has been lost. You have seen that in order for insects to have food and shelter, insects need native rather than invasive plants. Another major challenge that insects face is climate change. Climate change is a problem because the Earth is getting hotter from greenhouse gases released when cars or factories let off waste into the air. Ice caps are melting in the Arctic, and sea levels are rising. Since the ice is melting, polar bears and other animals are losing their habitats. Insects are also losing their habitats. If more ice melts, then the sea will continue to rise, impacting many places in coastal Maine. The praying mantis habitat might increase with climate change because they like warmer temperatures. If southern Maine gets warmer, then their habitat may expand. If their habitats expand to other places, then they could become an invasive species. They would throw off the ecosystem. Other insects could die because the mantis population took all of the prey in the area. Without insects, humans would also suffer because insects pollinate our food supply. The soldier beetle, a pollinator, might experience an increase in habitat because it likes warmer climates, but it might not be able to find native plants like goldenrod, and it also might not be able to find the insects that it likes to eat, such as aphids. Either way, the climate change could create an imbalance that causes the ecosystem to collapse. One way that we can slow down the rate of climate change is using more energy from wind or water turbines instead of energy produced from gas and oil.
Humans could not survive as the only species on this planet. We need other species like insects because everything in the ecosystem is interconnected. Humans need insects to survive. Fortunately, extinction takes a long time, and if we're sharing our landscape with other species, we could save much more of the biodiversity that still exists. Here are 3 ways that you can help insects in your own backyard. First, don't rake up all the leaves in the fall. Leave some for insects. Insects can use the leaves for places to live and for feeding themselves during the winter. Second, put out clean water in shallow dish. Fill the dish with some stones that insects can use for perching while they're drinking. Finally, use beneficial insects for pest control. Avoid using pesticides. They are deadly to many species.